As I talked about in my last video, Novak Djokovic made some interesting proposals to Tennis Australia and Craig Tiley on behalf of the players who are in the hard quarantine. If you need a refresher, Djokovic asked that these players had fitness and training material in all their rooms, decent food, reduced days of isolation, permission for them to visit their coach or trainer, and private housing. Djokovic was completely lambasted for these proposals, being called arrogant, privileged, and everything under the sun. The world number one did make a statement which reads, Australia, in light of recent media and social media criticism for my letter to Craig Tiley, I would like to clarify a few things. My good intentions for my fellow competitors in Melbourne have been misconstrued as being selfish, difficult, and ungrateful. This couldn't be farther from the truth. He continued, not every act is taken at its face value, and at times when I see the aftermath of things, I do tend to ask myself if I should just sit back and enjoy my benefits instead of paying attention to other people's struggles. However, I always choose to do something and be of service despite the challenging consequences and misunderstandings. Novak also suggested that his proposals were produced after speaking in a group chat with other players. He knew it was unlikely that any of his proposals would be granted, but apologized for how his comments were perceived. Things in the media escalated, and there was a general impression that the players, including myself, are ungrateful, weak, and selfish because of their unpleasant feelings in quarantine, he wrote. I am very sorry that it has come to that, because I do know how grateful many are. We all came to Australia to compete. The main criticisms, by the way, were that Novak was making these proposals while being pampered in Adelaide due to his participation in the A Day at the Drive exhibition. However, some people, Guido Pella included, wondered why Rafael Nadal and Dominic Thiem, who are also in the Adelaide exhibition, didn't speak out in support of the Melbourne players. A week later, Nadal has spoken out and has thrown a bit of shade apparently in the Serbians' direction for his now public proposals. Rafa told ESPN Argentina, some need to make public everything they do to help others, he said. Others do it in a more private way without having to publish or advertise everything we're doing. The calls we make to help the most disadvantaged players, some of us don't need to want to advertise on it. Complaints are understandable and totally respectable. Where is the privilege line or not privileges? There is already a little different, and I have a different vision than other tennis players. Here in Adelaide, conditions have been better than most players in Melbourne, but there are players in Melbourne who have larger rooms where they can develop physical activities. Others have smaller rooms and cannot contact with their coach and their physical trainer. Where's the line? It's an ethical issue and everyone has their own opinion and they are all respectable. At the time of talking about fair play or equal conditions, people don't tend to complain about the position of those who are worse off than them. In the end, we all try to get the most out of our possibilities and help each other. So that was Rafa's statement, and while I understand and agree with most of what he said, I do have my criticisms. If he was indeed talking about Djokovic, which I'm sure he was, the comments about making the complaints public aren't accurate. Novak's letter to Tiley was leaked to the public and he never meant for them to get out. Once again, it's not 100% certain that Nadal is subbing the Serb, as some believe he was talking about Guido Pella, who criticized Rafa for not saying anything. I highly doubt this though, as Nadal said that some people would rather help in public, and Guido Pella was not helping, only Novak was helping. I don't think that there's any bad blood between these two. They seem to be very friendly with one another in late 2019, and they were very respectful with one another after the Roland Garros final. I also don't believe that Nadal was speaking with any kind of malice or bitterness towards Novak if he was talking about him. During this interview with ESPN Argentina, I think he was just, talking. I don't think it was out of anger or anything. So maybe his tone was misconstrued. Now, Nadal did do a video interview with CNN where he went more in depth about his thoughts about the Australian Open hard quarantines.
Of course, it's a different situation than usual. No, it's much more sad for everyone. But at least we are here, and we're gonna have the chance to play here the Australian swing, and the world is suffering in general. No, so. We can't complain. We only can say thanks to Tennis Australia, to the Australian community to welcome us, and to accept us to come, because I know they have been under very strict measures for a lot of months. Yeah, for us is good at least that we can keep playing tennis. Of course, have been a tough situation for 72 players, I think, plus their teams, coaches. Yeah, of course, it's not the ideal situation, and of course, I feel very sorry for all of them. But when we came here, we knew that the measure is going to be strict, because we knew that the country is doing great with the pandemic. Australia probably is one of the best examples in the world how they react through this very challenging times. So I mean, it's normal to complain in some way, but in the other hand, when you have a little bit wider perspective of what's going on the world, well, you have to think and say, well, okay, I am not happy to be 14 days in my own room without having the chance to practice, to go out, to do my normal preparation for a tournament. But in the other hand, you see how many people is dying around the world. You see how many people are losing their father, their moms, without having the chance to say goodbye. Is a real thing. That's what's happening in my country, for example. And close people to me are suffering these situations. So when you see all of this, you have to stay a little bit more positive.
I think this was a good interview and had great insight and perspectives. Now, of course, Nadal is living the good life in Adelaide, but he still has a good mindset about the situation in Australia and understanding that people are really struggling, the Victorians are struggling. Also, Serena Williams, in an interview with Stephen Colbert, praised the Australian Open quarantine rules, saying that the officials are doing things right.
You're in Australia right now, as I was just telling the people here. What's the quarantine like down under? Are they have strict quarantine protocols down there?
Yeah, it's super, super strict, but it's really good. So Australia right now has, the last I heard, they had 0 cases of COVID. So that
Wow.
is unbelievable, right?
Yes.
The whole country. So that is really amazing. So when we come here in Australia, everyone has to quarantine in a room for 14 days, and it's insane and it's super intense, but it's super good, because after that you can have a new normal like what we were used to last year this time in the United States. So they're doing it right, and it's definitely hard with a 3-year-old. To be in the hotel all day, but it's worth it because you want everyone to be safe at the end of the day.
Now, speaking of his good life in Adelaide, the day after drive exhibition matches have been set. Novak Djokovic will play Italian superstar Jannik Sinner, followed by a blockbuster women's match between Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka. Venus will play Romanian Arina Camelia Begu. Then in the evening session, we have Nadal versus Thiem, then Barty versus Halep. In other schedule news, the full ATP Cup order of play has been released. All top 4 seeds, Djokovic, Nadal, Thiem, and Medvedev, will play on day 1. However, none of them will have to play one another until at least the semifinal stage. Now, in even more schedule information, all of the Australia tennis events have been revealed, including an additional WTA tourney restricted to players in hard quarantine. All the tournaments leading up to the Australian Open will be played in Melbourne Park, where the Slam is held. This is just completely insane, but I'm intrigued to see how everything will work itself out. That's all for this video, and let me know your thoughts about Nadal's statements and whether you think he was talking about Novak. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever we post new content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.